Hello, my name is Tina, and today I will be making an old-fashioned coffee cake using the Los Angeles Unified School District's recipe. For this recipe, it actually makes two 13 by 9 coffee cakes. I use the metal pans that you buy in the store because they tend to be easier, plus with it making two, they're easy to give away. Now, to save time, I have already prepared my pans, which means I have already washed them thoroughly with hot soapy water, rinsed them, and greased them with shortening. You can use butter, just don't use oil, but you can use shortening, or a cream shortening, or butter. Now, this recipe calls for 4 cups of flour, 2 cups of brown sugar, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg. You can add walnuts, however, I don't. 1½ cups of oil, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Also, for the topping, we are going to use 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3 large eggs, and 2 cups of buttermilk. Okay, first thing we need to do, you'll need measuring cups, a 1 cup and 1/2 cup, as well as a teaspoon, and 2 bowls or something to put the toppings in. I forgot to pull out my wax paper for the flour. Now, the first thing we are going to do is measure out the 4 cups of flour. I just use a regular all-purpose flour. I have already washed my hands and everything. And to measure this, I'm going to use a regular butter knife. I just dip the cup directly in. And to measure the flour properly, you're going to make sure that the cup is full. And you could just use the butter knife to level it off. That way you have an exact measurement. Whenever you're baking, you want as close to exact measurements as you can get, because it's sort of like a scientific experiment, if that makes sense. So that's 1 cup. That's 2 cups. Three cups. Let me see how much flour I have here. Whatever excess flour I have, I just greased my pans. I haven't floured them yet, so I will use the excess flour to flour my pans. I'll use the 1/2 cup to fill it up. Now, you can use regular all-purpose flour. Sometimes I will use bread flour. You can use whole wheat flour. It's up to you. This recipe is really easy. And you basically can substitute things as you need them. If you don't have something, the main thing you need is make sure you have the buttermilk, which I always have to buy. Everything else, I usually just have it in my cupboard. Next thing we need is 2 cups of brown sugar. I prefer the brown sugar in the box because that way I could just empty the entire box into the pan. However, since I don't have a box, I'll have to measure out 2 cups of brown sugar. And let me get a clean spoon, because I don't want to put dirty utensils in. And of course I can't open it. Okay. Now to measure out brown sugar, you want to pack it into your measuring cup or spoon. So I'll get it like mostly full, and then I'll just pack it down. One. Need one more. And that's 2. The little bit that's on here, I'm just going to add that in. It's not much. And what I do, every time I add something, I mix it in. Okay. Next is 1.5 cups of regular granulated white sugar. Again, we're going to use our butter knife just to smooth it down. Okay, so that's 1 cup. And then we need 1/2 cup. Okay. Next we'll need 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I just use the 1 teaspoon measuring cup for everything. I just don't fill it up. However, if you have a 3/4 teaspoon, use that. Okay. And then let's mix. For this recipe, you are not going to use a blender or a mixer. You will just mix everything by hand because you want the batter to be lumpy. Okay, so we put in the flour, the brown sugar, the regular sugar, and the salt. We need 2 teaspoons of nutmeg. And for the nutmeg and the cinnamon, I actually use a heaping teaspoon. It adds more flavor. Whoa, not that heaping. And 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. We also are going to use 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And for the baking soda, I want to also use the knife to make sure it's level. And I try and get all the little chunks out to make it as smooth as possible. There's one. If you do have chunks in your baking soda, what I do to kind of, because you don't want to bite into a chunk of baking soda, what I'll do is just run it through my hands to like sift it. So it has been 35 minutes since I put these in the oven, and let's see the progress. That's how one looks. And this is, if you notice the topping where it goes in, didn't say, and that's from the topping. These are a little jiggly. I don't know if you can see that, how it jiggles when I pull it in and out. The top one is anyway. So it needs to cook longer. The bottom one, I'm gonna just press on it and see. No, it's still not done. So let's cook these for about, I don't know, 10 more minutes, and then we'll check on them again. The 10 minutes is up. Let's check them again. They're looking better. One thing I can see, if you notice, the cake is coming away from the edges. That's a good sign. Let's see if we press down on the cake lightly, if it will bounce back. That's another good sign. That's the sign I use. If not, other things you can do is insert a toothpick in the middle, in the center, to see if it comes out clean. But to me, these appear to be done, so I will be taking them out of the oven. Now it's best to let them cool down for a few minutes, but they're best when they're warm. Also, if you notice, the pan gets a little bent as you're working with it, don't worry about that. It's perfectly fine, especially as you're washing the pans, they bend a little, but don't even worry about that. And that's it. Enjoy.